Anil, did risk taking come naturally to you?
Interesting question. I like to think so. And I'm reminded of a lovely discussion that we had in business school in a course that I got to take on managerial decision making when the professor challenged us on, oh, you think you're cut out to be an entrepreneur? You think you have the sufficient risk tolerance? So he posed a question: how many of you have missed a flight? And I can talk about the number of flights that I've missed because yes, those were risks that I took in cutting it too
Okay.
close. And I like to think that maybe a stricter test would be how many of us, well, many of us have missed flights, missed trains in trying to do uh, all that we could before we had to hit the road. How many of us have run out of gas in a car, have run out of yeah petrol and been in a stranded car? I've done that too. So maybe I am a little predisposed to take risks. I think of
Okay.
how when I would be a child and helping mom clear the table, clear the dishes off the dining table, I would stack up as many plates as I could so that I could minimize the number of trips between the dining table
Reduce
and the
the
kitchen. So yeah, I was taking a risk. Some would
looking at
argue though,
optimizing straight away.
yeah, and I'm reminded of a lovely remark made by a respected professor in my final year of college. He was a professor in uh, yeah in the management department, and the course was on optimization, operations research, and
Okay.
operations, not operations management, but operations research. And he said that life itself is an optimization problem subject to various constraints. So, yes, we have opportunities before us that we see. We are faced with constraints. We take risks. I may be predisposed more than the average person to take risks. Then again, there are other entrepreneurs who would argue that no, entrepreneurs aren't foolish to take senseless risks, they take measured risks. I'm
Okay.
not getting into the research of
Yeah,
entrepreneurship.
we
I just think that, yeah,
we'll get
some
into
things
that.
that are,
Which brings me to
yeah,
the other question. Was Jody 365 love at first thought, or did you grow fond of it over time?
no, it had to have been Levis' first thought because here you make a choice to invest headlong into this opportunity. And it's not that it was
Right.
the only suitor before me. And I've blogged about this. I've talked about how there were several opportunities that I evaluated while I was in the home stretch of my MBA program, which I saw as a detour onto this path of something entrepreneurial. But then, quite like finding a match itself. So here you're asking me whether my venture into matchmaking itself was love at first thought, and I made the reference to suitors. Quite like finding a match itself. Sometimes they say, when you know, you know. I was really excited
Yeah.
about this problem. Of all the problems out there, the one that would have been most fulfilling for me to tackle was this problem. So
So, is entrepreneurship a career? And is it for everyone? And how do you know if you can be one? Anil Kumar has a few decades of varied experience as a researcher, code developer, consulting engineer, activist, angel investor, and entrepreneur. He's the founder and CEO of Jody365.com, a bespoke matchmaking service for elite singles, and is slated to do a cameo as himself in an upcoming Hollywood rom-com, Coco and Nut. A graduate of IIT-Madras, he holds an MS from the University of Iowa and a PhD from the University of Michigan. He's also earned an MBA from the Chicago Booth School of Business. And what does he think is the first thing an entrepreneur needs to overcome? A fear of failure. My name is Venugopal. I head Ideascape, an agency which is into branding, communication, and design. Every week, we have conversations about career journeys with people from different professions. And every journey has been full of twists, turns, and insights. Today, I'm glad to have on board Anil, who heads Jodi's 365. Welcome to the show, Anil. Great to
Thanks,
have you.
Vino. Thanks for having me. Likewise.
Okay, so you followed what is a fairly, well-established template. IIT, going abroad and doing your masters and then research. So, how did this whole thing flip into being an entrepreneur?
Yeah, one of the questions you asked is entrepreneurship a career path? It is a path, not a conventional career if you're
Right,
founding a venture of your own. In my
right,
case, I had this itch in me to do something of my own because there I was, it might have seemed like a beaten path. And especially in my time, it was somewhat of a beaten path. You finish your studies at IIT, and then you think about what next. There are folks who go into the corporate world. There are folks who choose to study further in the sciences. There are folks who go into
right.
um, business studies right away. I was most excited about the prospect for making some advancements, making some contributions. And I thought that no better way than advancing knowledge, human knowledge, by contributing to progress in what was then my chosen field, hydrodynamics. And I smile and I think about how many of my peers would be taking the equivalent of the GMAT, the CAT, to get into the top business school in India at the time. And we're talking 30 plus years ago. And then some would be writing GATE to get into master's programs in science and tech in India. Some would be interviewing with companies that came on campus for campus placement to get into jobs in corporate India at the time. And there was many who took their shot at just about everything. And whereas I was very clear that no, this is what I wanted to do. So, and in a way, there are parallels to my going on the entrepreneurial path as well. Because what is it about? This foolish notion of maybe legacy, making a contribution. More recently, there's this phrase that has come into popular parlance, excuse me, making one's own little dent in the universe. So that is what motivated me to start something and to leave something, make some impact and leave something good behind. Is it for everyone? Doesn't need to be for everyone. There's no, there's nobody looking down upon us and saying that this is the optimal distribution in society in any given tribe. That yes, so many need to go into this, and then look at even say a gender split. I forget what the third question was, but yes, as I embarked on the journey towards founding and running my own business, I talk about how it was not much different from my going on to do graduate research with the expectation that yes, um, I would make some impact. The difference was that the deeper I was going down this well of knowledge, the narrower the well was becoming, the narrower my
Yeah.
footprint. There was a time when I dreamed of writing the next Bible in marine hydrodynamics. How many people would have even been motivated to read some of my research papers while in grad school? Maybe a few dozen, maybe a few hundred max, probably hundreds. But then I like the idea of broadening my footprint. And
Okay.
after grad school, I joined a consulting firm. I took on volunteer and then leadership roles at an NGO, which I saw as being my early foray into working in a cash strapped environment, working with people who don't get much pay or are volunteers outright,
What was this
and making
NGO
some
into?
impact. So there
What
were a
was the
few.
NGO
Primarily,
into?
yeah, there were a few NGOs that I was happy to support. They were into animal welfare and the environment.
Okay.
And one's mission most appealed to me. Healthy people, healthy planet was the slogan of encouraging people to move towards the planted side, the plant-based side of the spectrum, the food spectrum, making healthier food choices for themselves and the planet. Earth Save, that was the organization. But yeah, we're rewinding a few careers ago. Happy to be on this path. Happy to be connecting with you, someone with whom I've had a good rapport for what, over a decade and a half now.
Yeah.
But yeah, ask away, your show.
Great. So, can you define a particular point at which this business of matchmaking or getting into relationships as a career, as an entrepreneur, really, sort of came to mind. How did the idea come about? Was there a particular point you remember?
Yeah, vividly. So it goes back to 16 and a half years ago, early 2009, when I was in the home stretch of my MBA program at the Chicago Booth School of Business. One of my motivations for taking this detour through business school, 6 years after finishing my PhD. So that I finished undergrad at 21, master's degree by 23, PhD by 27, and then worked at this consulting firm, a boutique marine consulting firm in Seattle for several years. And I had this fire in the belly, need to do more, want to do more in life, want to create greater impact and grow professionally. And I didn't like the idea of feeling slotted as a conehead, as a specialist in one particular area, even though it was a general practice marine consulting firm with a strong design focus, strong marine engineering focus, and marine transportation management. Not just marine transportation, but transportation solutions were also part of its forte. I wanted to do more in life, and I thought that while having the constraints that I did while being in the US on a work visa, I couldn't quite take a sabbatical and think about what next. Where do I go? Where do I see myself in the next 5 years, 10 years? I couldn't forget starting something of my own, couldn't go to this valley and join a startup. I thought while I was waiting for the additional career options or mobility that would come through with permanent residency, and I liked my life and career in the US and I saw myself being based there indefinitely, it couldn't hurt to take this detour through business school while still living and working full time in the US on my work visa. That's what I did. I began this weekend MBA program at U Chicago, which is designed for working professionals who can't quite take the time off, who think that the opportunity cost of a full time program may be more than they are willing or able to bear. And I could see it working. So while going about my program, I enjoyed the additional exposure to business ideas, entrepreneurship, experiential opportunities, working with startups. One of the highlights of my program, my MBA education, was my getting to apprentice and take on a lead associate role at what is now one of the largest angel investment networks in the US, Hyde Park Angels, which is affiliated with the business school. I got to be on the other side of the table, working with startups, screening them, putting them before the investment committee, and even mentoring them. Even got to invest in a deal that got a good exit as well a few years down the road. And while interacting with my peers and having ideas germinate and seeing if it had some legs, it was in early 2009 that I reflected on how, interestingly, while reviewing a deal and having to research social networking platforms, we look at analogs. What might the business model be for a social networking platform? Yes, you could do ad revenues, you could do subscription revenues. I got to look into the financials of one of the dating sites. And it reminded me of this problem that I'd known personally for the previous decade. I was in my mid 30s then. And I thought about how this is a problem that remained unsolved because not only was I single from when I thought I was ready to explore a relationship to find a life partner, at least find somebody who could be a potential life partner from my mid 20s, it hadn't quite worked for me. And that was the genesis of why don't I do something better? Because for all the years until then, I would react as a typical consumer would. If you don't like this, you say, okay, this matrimonial site sucks. Let me try something else. Maybe a desi flavor or a US based, more dating focused matchmaking platform. You name it, I would have tried it. When I say online options, it's because I saw them as convenient as a busy professional who didn't quite have the time to mix and mingle. And even if one were to mix and mingle, when preferences are so discerning, so limiting, what are the odds of finding, for example, in my case, I'm not shy about saying it, I was a hardcore vegan at the time in my mid-20s to mid-30s. I would describe myself as a level 5 vegan. I'm still mostly vegan, but I'd say um, a more manageable level 1 vegan as against an insufferable level 5 vegan. It was very important for me to
Okay.
find a partner who was vegan. And at a time when there would have been at most 500,000 vegans in all of the US, good luck finding a needle in the haystack. And I had a life to live. I
Right.
had a professional aspiration that required me to be zoned in. And these online auctions were convenient watering holes. But then when something wouldn't work, I would think that never again. And I remember not going past the gate of one of the leading matrimonial site today, feeling like puking when I saw the hypocrisy in another matrimonial site. Tried the US flavors also. And just as in the US, you have what, 28 flavors of toothpaste, 50 brands of bread. There's a niche site for just about everybody: educated singles,
Right.
green singles, vegetarian singles. And I thought that, well, this isn't working. Uh, let me kick back and lick my wounds and get my head right after dealing with the weird creatures in the jungle out there. And it is a jungle. It is a jungle out there. And I would think, let me make more time to socialize with friends at least once or twice a month. Let me focus on things that I enjoy, whether it's working out or running or hiking, or maybe meet somebody at a book club or vegetarian potluck. Many of the things that I advise youngsters to do the things that bring you joy. Have your eyes open, you might run into somebody. But then what changed?
Right.
The switch that flipped while going through B school was that here you are being coached on helping to run a division in the company, helping to taking on more management responsibility, even founding something. I was still the same guy, maybe a little more exposure. Maybe what changed was the confidence. What changed was just this awakening, right? The switch flipping, and had me thinking that I could do a better job than these bozos out there running this platform or that platform. But then I spent a couple of months thinking about what kind of form it would take. But I could go on for the entire podcast on just this, let me keep it right.
Okay. So
But there
why
was
don't
that
you tell
moment.
me, yeah, what were the teething troubles as far as you were concerned in getting down to making what is essentially a concept in your mind? Of course, the being with a VC and understanding what startups were going through, I suspect would have given you some idea of what needed to be done. But what was the first stage?
Where do I even begin? Where do I even
Yes.
begin? See, part of the problem is there are a lot of things that we don't know as budding entrepreneurs, and we don't even know what we don't know. And I
Right.
like how Donald Rumsfeld, then Secretary of Defense, took a lot of heat for his sage remark that there are
Right.
known knowns, and then there are known unknowns, and there are unknown unknowns too. You don't know what you
Right.
don't know. And it helps to have people who can mentor you, who can tell you that, yeah, sure, careful, there are these pitfalls and this kind of business and that kind of business. But then there are things that they
Right.
don't know either. So teething troubles, I'd say, was my own having to get up to speed on the whole idea of where do I even begin? And I can tell you in summary that, wow, there's so much that I wish I knew then that I know today. If I had to do start over, I would do things a lot differently. Many teething troubles. Unfortunately, a lot of the teething troubles, I wouldn't call procedural issues teething troubles, as in how do you go about setting things up. Even though, even though there are many mistakes, rookie mistakes that somebody can make, I suspect that your audience would be budding entrepreneurs, young professionals.
Yeah.
Rookie mistake. You think that, oh yeah, great, I have this good relationship with this person that I know as an acquaintance or even a friend. Let's get into business together. They ought to know that it's important, even if you agree on, say, an equitable ownership split, 50-50 is a bad idea. Somebody should always have executive authority. I'm CEO, bitch. Someone should have that authority. 51-49. Because there will be differences. Somebody needs to make the final call because there are so many things that you don't know. You're not even sure what is the right answer, what is the right path ahead, but you can't just get bogged into say, situation where there's an impasse. That's one. And even if you say 60-40 or 55-45 split, you don't just say, here's your 45%, here's my 55%. What if somebody gets washed out in 6 months or in a year? You can't have your cap table, as in the ownership structure of the company, which says who owns what, be holding on to somebody who's deadwood. They're gone, no longer in the business, but they've left with 40%, even 20%, even 10%. So rookie mistakes to avoid are to have what is known as a founder vesting agreement. Yes, I have, say, 55%, you have 45%, but we earn it over 4 years, which means that we are committed to this at least for the next 4 years. And how do we earn it? There are different formulas, there are different frameworks. This is another example of many tried and tested things that you don't have to screw up on. A year later, you earn the first quarter of your 45% of my 55%. And then we earn it month by month in a linear form until 4 years have gone by. And if you're still in, we've earned all of it. Quite like how something that people are more familiar with is when you join a company, an early stage company that somebody else founded, as an early employee, you get options so that you get a chance to make a killing when it goes gangbusters. And those options aren't granted right away. What if you bolt a month later after earning those options or being given those options in hand? So you earn it, right, by your contributions over time. There's something similar for founders too. Other mistakes. Unfortunately, in India, as much as people talk about, oh, look at the ease of doing business. When I started, India may have been, what, 145, 140 something and on this global list. If there was such a list then, it may have come around some years later. We're talking about the start of my journey being 16 years ago. India has
Yeah.
made progress, but it must still be at what, 70 something on the list. It is painful to deal with those kind of teething issues, bureaucracy. I had to
I'll come to
submit an
that, Anil.
application.
I'll just take a short break to sort of announce things like I said. So I'm talking to S. Anil Kumar, the founder of Jodi 365. And one of the things that he started with was by saying how he got to know fairly early on that he was willing to take risks. And then, having gone through business school, having experimented with consultancy, and having known the lay of the land with um, venture capitalist firms, he looked at his own experience in building relationships, which finally culminated in whatever form, as a great starting point for which a problem that still needed to be solved. And that was the genesis of Judy 365. So he talks of how the thought came to him, what were the teething troubles, what are some of the things that all founders need to look for in order to move ahead. So even if you've got a partner in business at 50-50, and there are issues, so how do you manage to make that split? How do you figure out if both of them are contributing to the business, and how do you build the business all the way from the ground up? So which is where he started 16 years ago. And in the next segment, I'll talk to him about where he saw this going and what were the points of realization and growth when he realized that this could go places. If you like what you've been hearing so far, please share, subscribe, and spread the word to your friends, because this episode is going to tell you what it means to be an entrepreneur, not the starry eyed version, but the real version close to the ground. So, Anil, what were the kind of things that where you felt that, hey, I know I have made progress? What were the kind of things that showed you about a year down the line or 2 years down the line that the business was beginning to grow?
Sure. No better validation than somebody voting with their wallet, somebody paying money, right? So first customer revenues was a meaningful milestone. Yeah, no better milestone than that. Too often people get caught up with, oh, I have an idea and all of, yeah, I have this idea for great dog food. But classic expression is will the dogs eat the dog food? I say this in a respectful term. I'm not referring to my customers as
Yeah.
dogs, but it's
Yeah.
a
Absolutely. Yeah.
competition and among startups and their mentors. Will the dogs eat the dog food? And do you really understand customer pain? In my case, I could say, heck, I have lived customer pain. I have known this challenge. So there is something known as, let me keep this tight. You asked, okay, what the milestone? That is one. The second is, no, even before that. See, as founders, as entrepreneurs, not just founders, you're always required to sell, always be selling. You end up having to sell not just to customers, and in some cases, not in all cases, but yeah, to investors, and not just investors, even to folks in the media, as in, hey, look at what I'm doing, right? You have to pitch your case before investors, before people who may have some good things to say about you for word of mouth, to potential hires, right? Look, this is why I think what I'm doing is important and going to be valued and timely, right? Why join a startup? Why join this startup? And why now? So, related to that is milestone is somebody coming on board. I believe in what you're doing. I love this opportunity. Yeah, sure. I'd love to join you in building what you're building. Those were milestones way before the product got built, way before first revenues came in. Getting that kind of validation. But I'll tell you this, it's never linear. It's often a case of two steps forward, one step back, one step forward, two steps back. And it's not so much about one step here and then one step back in this direction. It's messy. There are lovely memes out there which talk about how it's not a straight path from here to here. It's a mess with a spool of thread in between. But yeah, happy to talk about others if they come to mind.
Okay. And did you consciously get into what you saw as a gap in the market, which is you're very clearly focused on people with a professional who come from professional backgrounds who are not so much in favor of arranged marriages. Am I reading that right?
I have to be careful over here. No, I wouldn't put it that way, but good question. I can wait if you want to elaborate on it, or I can give free rein to relevant thoughts that have sprung in my head already.
Because the way I saw it is that did you see that times were changing and that there is a set of people who
Yeah,
wanted to be able to make the decision themselves? Is that the gap you saw?
yeah. I'll not see it as a leading question because many people may still ask me, even people who know me wonder, and I love to get into it. Yes, I saw a gap in the marketplace. It's something that goes into a typical pitch deck that any startup puts together. What's a competitive landscape like? So there I was in my mid 30s, as I
Yeah.
shared earlier, still single, despite not only having been open to finding somebody, but being proactive about it for the previous decade. There were times when it worked out, but not for good, which is why I found myself back in the single scene. And I took stock of how the prevailing matrimonial sites catered mainly to
Yeah.
those who were very keen on marriage. I could say it in Tamil, Udane Nichirata, Udane Kalyana. Let's move to an engagement soon and then move to a wedding soon thereafter. Within weeks of coming across somebody's profile, yeah, sure, the black box that the horoscope matching system is says that it should be fine. Families look good. You seem to get along. Boom. Let's set an engagement date. Let's set a wedding date. Whereas youngsters, I thought, while still being conditioned towards the idea of an arranged marriage, given the cultural significance. That's the responsibility of every most loving parents. Yeah, need to make sure that junior is quote unquote well settled. Were wary of how well. What if I don't vibe with him? What if we don't get along? I don't want to be divorced. And if things don't work out, the difference in these generations is that people don't hesitate to bail out, which is why you see the surge in divorce rates. And how has it been manifesting into the whole process as a feedback loop? Is that parents also recognize, families recognize that it's important for somebody to get to know each other. But then you have these matrimonial sites. So what are the alternatives? On the where somebody could get to know another person, yeah, these more dating focused platforms, emerging dating sites, even in India. We're talking decade and a half ago. I didn't think that that would be the right way to go about things in a changing India. My view was that there was a crying need for an alternative to the matrimonial sites, something that appealed to the young generation without antagonizing the parental set. And what is arranged? See, people still refer to it as arranged marriages. How many marriages do we know of? It might still be strong in some pockets where somebody told son, this is the woman you're going to marry. Woman, Pune, young woman, hey, Bitya, this is the clown that we found for you. This is who you're going to marry. And no, they have veto power. More than veto power, they have a say, I'm not marrying this clown. Show me more. Show me somebody else. So what are families doing? They're lining up prospects. They're making introductions. Sure, there's a lot of uh, emotional pressure that youngsters feel, but I didn't think that dating was a smart way to go about this, where people don't think about all that goes into compatibility. It has to do with youth. It has to do with how, well, until somebody is 25, the brains haven't fully developed. It might not land
Yeah.
well with those who are younger than 25, but enough science has established that the prefrontal cortex is still developing when one is in one's early to mid 20s. That's the part of the brain that's responsible for judgment and decision making. We make poor judgments when we are young. We do stupid things. And you want to choose a life partner? So my vision was of a platform that would be a response to the changing times, something that would appeal to the serious folks who were looking for not just fooling around, getting to be in a short-term relationship with somebody from the opposite sex, somebody
Right.
looking for folks looking for a serious relationship, but wanting to take their time and getting to know that this is the right person for them. So the mantra was Jodi 365 helps quality singles find the right partner at their own pace. It could mean being ready for marriage in the near term within months of getting to know someone. Some are able to take that leap of faith, or even for folks who may be wary of tying the knot pretty quickly, but maybe okay with an engagement and all the social sanction that comes with it. And then having a courtship period of at least some months to decide that, yes, I'm okay for being with this person for the long haul and tying the knot. And some others may say, I don't want to feel the pressure. I've known a relationship, it didn't quite work out. I want to get to know someone as friends first without pressure of, oh, you've been talking for a few weeks. It's been a couple of months. Why don't you say yes? None of that pressure. So as a Jodi 365 was positioned as a smart, sensible hybrid between the traditional matrimonial site and emerging dating sites and apps.
How did
I
you
could add,
solve one of the biggest issues that in a site like this tends to be, which is getting enough profiles for takeoff? In the sense, what were your kind of the milestones that you wanted to hit in terms of the numbers that would register on the site and from both sexes?
yeah.
How did
So
you
getting
handle that?
in a profile design. And so see, here's the thing. This is the kind of question that rarely comes up. I'm not surprised that you're bringing it up. When people think about startups, they think about certain business models. There are many different kinds of business models, many more different kinds of startups. What may work for one startup doesn't quite work, one model doesn't work for another startup. So here, you can call it teething troubles also. When you asked, right, about teething troubles on the milestone to growth. If I was selling software, even if I was selling software as a service, I could build the tech, I could set up the company, I could build a team, I could get the best tech folks, design folks, and a lovely product team. And in parallel, it's an important thing that I'm slipping in over here. In parallel, think about how do you take this to market. Um, and let's say it's ready, you put it before the folks, potential customers in the marketplace, and you sell your stuff. In my
Certainly.
case,
Yeah.
I have a platform. And people don't come because they think, oh wow, this is such a cool brand. This speaks to me. That's not enough. They come not for the website. They come for the people that they can meet through the website, through the app. Yeah, so we have to be careful not to forget that what matters is what your product does for somebody,
Right.
and what they expect of a platform is, can I find the right person over here? Now, my
Right.
preferences are such that I may have to comb through who knows how many potential matches before I find the one who's right for me. So important for us to have a critical mass of men and women in enough concentrations in local markets, so that if somebody came online in Indore, forget the tier one cities, or if someone came online in
Okay.
Atlanta, there would be enough options for them that, oh, okay, so here's somebody I could get to know, maybe a 20-minute drive away, yeah, maybe a 45-minute drive away, and I can get to know that person. In this age of
Right.
technology, people are more accepting of the fact that, yeah, sure, I can get to know you over a call, or even on video call these days, and maybe meet in a few weeks, or get to meet every month or so if there's some potential. But still important for us to get enough numbers. And I can tell you, this is a kind of chicken and egg problem, which is a big challenge for marketplace businesses, whether it is the social networking side, whether it is, say, classic examples are of e-commerce platforms, social networking sites, and even matchmaking
Right.
platforms. How did I solve it? I can tell you, it has been a tough industry, tough business to be in. At the same time, what also had me being at peace is that even if you are at, and there are very smart ways of how you can get traction. Uh, I can slip this also. Don't try to be everything for everybody. Um, don't try to conquer the world right away. Try to get a beachhead in certain pockets. In my case, what worked was, I was not, yeah, if you look at the logo, it is long said for quality singles, for, we even say now, for elite singles. That has to do with a more recent pivot in recent years. And you don't have to be everywhere all the time. Pick a beachhead, get some traction in that beachhead. Take, for example, Uber. Uber had the same problem of making sure that, yeah, there would be enough people who would look at Uber as an alternative to getting from place A to place B. For them to have that option, no matter where they are, imagine that. You'd have to have enough drivers who offer themselves on the platform saying, yeah, sure, sign me up. I will make myself available if I get a notification saying that somebody on this app wants a ride from this pickup point to this destination. What do they start off as? As a high-end limousine service. Uh, and then they saw some traction between airport rides. Maybe they attacked folks who were returning from conferences. They established the coolness factor. They established the convenience factor. But yeah, they started small, and then they expanded in market after market aggressively when you knew that it was working in this market. You don't need to launch everywhere. You can launch in, say, one small fraction of Bangalore. So that was part of our going into select markets to begin with. Uh, you asked, how did we solve this? It still remained a challenge. And yet, because think about this, it means putting money. And as a startup, you have finite marketing dollars. How do you compete against those with deeper pockets who can carpet bomb the airwaves? Word of mouth helps. Offering differentiating on innovation helps. Listening to the users helps. Going out and tackling something in a way that allows you to be more nimble than the established folks in the marketplace has helped. But more than that, what had me being at peace is that in this kind of business, unlike an e-commerce platform, unlike a social networking site, where let's say you invested enough to get somebody to be a customer, let's say at Amazon, or get somebody on Facebook, you have them for a long time because you are building network effects. You incentivize them to bring their friends, and it's all right. You can invest that much. In a matchmaking problem, in a matchmaking network, you're not quite building true network effects, because if you want to match women with men, you had to have enough women for the men, you had to have enough men for the women. But the better you are in your algorithm, the better you are at matching two people with each other, the sooner they say goodbye to you. They don't need you anymore. So
Right.
there's no question of LTV, lifetime value of customer. It's inevitably a one shot deal, average revenue per user. And you have enough industry data from public companies that tell you that the average shelf life of a user, I'm using clinical terms with no disrespect,
Right.
the average shelf life of a user on a platform was maybe 5.5 months from when I looked at it a decade ago. Meaning, and I mean, it's more brutal than that. If they don't find a match within 5.5 months, expect that they think that
They
this
leave.
thing isn't working for me. I'm out of here. Or they found somebody and they say, hey, thanks so much. Goodbye. So there'd be either positive word of mouth or good luck dealing with negative word of mouth. Yeah, this didn't work. This didn't work for me. What gave me peace, and I say this as a punchline, whether you have 20,000 users or 200,000 users or 20 million users, even if they may be made up users, you got to keep replenishing supply. You got to keep working on getting the next batch of X
Right.
users
People in.
in the next 6 months. So everybody is hunting. It's like the story of the lion and the gazelle in the African jungle. If a lion wakes up and doesn't run to hunt and doesn't grab food, it's toast. If a gazelle,
Yeah.
upon waking up, it realizes that it has to run because if it doesn't outrun the fastest lion, it's toast. So whether
Doesn't
you're a
live.
small platform or a big platform, you wake up every day, every week, you got to be putting yourself out there to get the next batch of users. Yeah.
Amazing. That analogy is brilliant, Anil. So you must be having amazing material for rom-coms to be written with the stories that you have on the platform.
Yeah, yeah. And not necessarily rom-coms. There are so many poignant stories to share. I can tell you, see, it said that just about everybody has at least one book in them. And this is from a generation ago. Who has the time for books? Who has the time for 2 hour movie adaptations of books? Good luck if in this information age where there's information overload, if you can get somebody's attention for 2 minutes, forget 2 minutes. If you don't get their attention in the first 3 seconds of a reel, you've lost them. But here, I think that I have not only a few books in me, but so many stories that I get to hear about people's, so many books that each person comes every day. And I love doing this. I'm given, more so given our um, current model at Jody 365. I get to talk to so many singles, not just in their 20s and 30s, but even 40s, even 50s. People who are single, who have had their fingers burned, people who have been in a relationship that didn't work out, people who got into marriage that didn't work out, people who remained single and who not known the touch of a man well into their adult years or a woman. Um, want to say this in respectful terms, not even get into clinical terms. People who've been in marriages that have not been consummated, parents who are stressing over, oh, daughter's 29 and we've been leaning on her for 4 years already. So many conversations, and then, oh, father lost a parent generation ago, and the mother talking about how it is challenging. And I say, yeah, for her having to be in her masculine and play the role that she would have delegated to her loving husband. People who become widows and widowers, people who are divorced and who are dealing with the complications of shared custody and with a working or a not quite working relationship with the spouse. Think of how many stories everybody has. And I've had constraints, not just of time, but also privacy. I've thought about maybe a diary, a matchmaker, diary of a matchmaker, and to talk at least in broad strokes about people's journeys. Even if the bandwidth allowed it, I have had concerns because people share so openly, in part because we earn their trust and they know that what they share with us stays with us. Yeah. And who knows? Good luck to them in talking about their own stories at a time and place of their choosing. So not just rom-com, but thank you for asking this because I think about every day how fortunate I am that I wake up with a sense of purpose, that I think about what a difference my team get to make in people's lives, comforting and not just providing hope and positivity and excitement as we make introductions between fine singles, but also giving comfort to the elders in the family. I've got on conversations in recent days with a 90-year-old grandmother concerned for her grandson who is approaching 34 in the US, about an 82-year-old grandmother concerned about her grandson who is in his late 30s in London. I'm talking, look at this. My mother's
Right.
88, bless her heart. I think about, wow, talking to these folks who could be doing other things in their sunset years. But hearing about Jody 365, coming across the potential connection with somebody whom we serve while we go about doing this discreetly. So many stories, Venu. Maybe in my lifetime, I'll get to share some of these stories in a way that does justice to them while
Yeah.
respecting their privacy and
Now,
dignity. Yeah.
have you also observed that there is a significant change in the attitudes of people, that is, both male and female, about commitment and long term relationships? Do you see this as an emerging problem, or do you think that this is just a sign of the times?
Well, this is something that I saw early on, right? The foundation years of Jody 65, 16 years ago. I did see that, yeah, people were open to the idea of being introduced to somebody through this quote unquote semi arranged marriage process, but wanted to take their time. This this trend that you talk about is very strong in the US right now. It takes on um, left versus right, takes on political color. Oh, men are not stepping up. Men have been so burned by um, being branded as creepy following the Me Too movement that they don't approach women as much. And women saying, hey, look, approach me, engage with me, have a conversation with me. Men having their grievances about women, women having their grievances about men, women in the US, especially those who are more to the left of center, way to the left of center, not being as keen on marriage and family as even women who are to the center or to the right of center, and even less than men who are on either side of the political spectrum. No surprise that in this flat world, you have a lot of influence from across the border, across airwaves, but I don't think it's as strong. So there are still concerns about not diving into marriage right away, wanting to get to know someone. I'm a little dismayed about the impact of these dating apps. Calling them dating apps is a dignified reference. These hookup apps. People don't realize, well, they quickly find out that, oh, what a disaster. You hear time and again of how people install one of these dating apps and uninstall within the same session because of their interaction immediately with all the creatures in the jungle, the modern singles jungle. Now, when they stay in the jungle, they deal with not just good folks, there are good, bad, and ugly in just about every society, every tribe, every platform. I like to say with pride, yeah, far less on the platforms that I run and operate, and I say platforms plural for our focusing not so much on quantity but on quality. But yeah, still, when they engage, it's wired in us to seek companionship, to explore relationships with somebody else. They get their hearts broken, and they realize that intent may not have been aligned. They may have been more long-term focused, whereas somebody may have been more short-term focused. Many of the challenges that you talk about are not new patterns. It just happens over and over again. And I think about how every generation has to deal with and learn the lessons that every generation learns. Part of it has to do with when I think about how women may get so burned by men, it has to do with how I challenge any woman, any smart, intelligent woman of today's 20 something generation or even older. Hypergamy is wired in women. Women wanting men of higher status. In the caveman days, it used to be wanting somebody who is bigger, taller, stronger. In the industrial age, somebody who was better with, say, weaponry or machines. In the knowledge economy, somebody who is quote unquote at least as well educated as I am. If they have a master's, somebody who has at least a master's, or somebody who's also a doctor, somebody who's also a lawyer, and somebody who's earning at least as much as I am, if not much more. 80% of women are chasing the top 10% of men. And the top 10% of men have great pickings. They may not invest as much. They may sow their wild oats. They may break many hearts. And there are players who are great with women because they are smooth, they're experienced. Whereas the ones idiot men who may be the more earnest kind, who haven't got game, who don't know how to engage with a woman because it's an art. It's sad that in with the emergence of these apps where you can hide behind a screen and message somebody and say, "Oh, I want to do friendship with you," the art of flirtation has been lost to so many in this generation. And we're talking about very subtle, very tasteful flirtation. Women wouldn't go and tell a man, "Hey, I'm interested in you," but there are so many signals. There's a blog post that I enjoyed crafting with a teammate who was a content writer. 18 signals that women might give out to tell you that, hey, they welcome you're approaching them. Women get their fingers burned. Men feel treated like commodities. They get burned on these dating apps. They don't get any love and attention. It's a jungle out there. I don't think it has gotten as bad as you hear about in the West. And I made the reference to the West because here I am, grew up in India, attended, went through college in India, but really went about coming into my own in the US for the subsequent decade and a half. And then spending much of the past 12 years in India again, straddling both societies as a hyphenated Indian American. I remain hopeful and I take every opportunity that I can to talk about the importance of the institution of marriage. I might sound like a boomer, but I say bring it on because I'm able to make a case, an earnest case to folks who are a good generation younger than me that while I may be closer in age to their parents, I haven't forgotten the challenges that they face in your 20s, in your
Right.
30s, both personal and professional. And for me to be able to be a bridge between generations, for me to be able to share so many lessons learned. If some of it comes down, see, if I strive to be a certain kind of manager, it's because I wished I had better managers in my professional career. I'm not a great manager. I like to
Yeah,
think that my
I
heart.
I get that entirely. So, in closing, Anil,
Oh,
can I
already, I'm so
ask you
enjoying this.
if no, you can take your time over this question, which is, would you opt for a different entrepreneurial, uh, foray if you had to do it again? Is there something that you feel you've missed out, or do you think that these 16 years that you spent have been spent well?
Yeah, I'm reminded of the question that people get asked. Oh, if you had to do something
Do it again.
over, everybody gives that. I wish I could throw an F bomb over here. Everybody gives
We
the
don't
same
know.
freaking answer. Oh, no, no,
Yeah,
no. They'll say, oh, yeah, I would do this all over again. If you had to marry somebody, uh, who would you choose? Oh, I would pick my sweetheart wife, and oh, the pandering that also happens between couples. But I'll tell you, there are two parts to this answer. Over the past decade and a half, and it's been a slog, and I can say I'm proud to be running a successful business, but it has been a slog. There have been enough times when people who have been my friends and well wishers have challenged me. My family members have challenged me. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I mean, giving up so many other lucrative options, but hey, you got to do what you got to do, what your heart calls you to do. And while not being foolhardy about it, I have believed in even the business aspects of this. And the kinder nudges have been that, oh, you have so much to offer to the world than a Jody 365. I believe that, and I take it. It has all the time that I have to give to it, even though there have been friends in recent years who had conversations with me about being a partner in their fund or even a venture partner. Picture abhi baki hai. I love that expression from a Shah Rukh Khan movie. There's more to come. But yes, if I had to do it, coming back to the question, the second part is this. See, there's so much to experience in life, so much to do. Well, I've enjoyed this journey. I'm not going to give that contrived, cliched answer, oh, I would pick this all over again. Hey, I would do something else. Why not? And some of it may have to do with my personality, wanting to scale new peaks, new challenges. Now, that is manifesting into new platforms, new business, allied businesses around matchmaking, not just and beyond, wedding planning as well. But yeah, I would think about something else and not feel so, oh, this is it and only this. I'm focused on this. Don't have the bandwidth for other things, but in a different life, maybe
Who
come,
knows?
who knows? Yeah, yeah. And no, quite like not just who knows. I would take something else. If I knew that I did this in
Okay.
in a past life, I would want something else. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Fabulous. So, a final question is uh, who do you think is actually cut out to be an entrepreneur? Somebody who can handle uncertainty, or somebody who wants, uh, things to go smoothly all the time? Comfort zones. Do you think it's got to do more with comfort zones or with the mental makeup?
Mental makeup. You have to see. You have to be almost into S&M. That's how brutal this path is. Elon Musk, polarizing figure. I think he put it well. It's like eating glass. So something has to drive you so much that you're willing to give up the cushy life. Well, not everybody has a cushy life, but you have other opportunities. People forego, as I did, lucrative career opportunities along a beaten path, going, showing up at work. Not that it's a cushy path, but yeah, one has to deliver no matter what one is doing. And there's no certainty of success either. Hey, with startups, as founders, it's different for those who join later when a company has been doing well, is profitable, it's growing. There's some upside potential as well. You might take a pay cut, but there's upside potential which attracts many to join startups some years down the road. But as founders, early stage, I mean, members of the founding team, you have to be driven by wanting to make an impact, your little dent in the universe, even if it means foregoing pay,
Yeah,
foregoing time with family and friends.
right.
You have to want it.
That's always going to be the biggest job of all. Thank you, Anil. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much for coming on the show and speaking so frankly and openly about what it means to be an entrepreneur. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, and good luck to everybody out there on your journeys.
Great.